Hello, folks. Welcome back to my channel. This is a world of TV shows, and today, finally got another. I finally got another review for you for of Bones, and this time we'll be looking at the very fifth episode of the first season called "A Boy in a Bush." A Boy in a Bush, indeed, the fifth episode of the first season. Now, this episode originally aired on November 8, 2005, on Fox. It was directed by Jesus Salvador Trevino and written by Kathy Reiches, Greg Ball, as well as Steve Blackman, right? So, this is, those who worked on this episode. So what is this episode about? What's going on? What's the matter? What's the plot about? I'll let you find out all about it very soon, God willing. So please bear with me as I'm trying to kind of recollect the events that ensued, that happened, that occurred in this episode. So this episode, basically, in this episode, Bones is going to be, or Brennan, rather, is going to be called to a crime scene after a pretty small skeleton is found there, and it is believed that actually it's pretty obvious, so I'm gonna tell you without wanting to spoil too much or anything, that this is the body of a young boy, right, who went missing after going to some kind of a mall, right? And basically, it's gonna be a pretty tough case for the team as a whole, especially Angela, who is the kind of the artist who is trying to recreate, what the victims looked like from the bones, which is pretty much of a, not an easy thing to do, but she's able to do so, and she's taking it pretty hard, right? Whereas the rest of the team, including Zach Eddy, Brandon's assistant, is also, a little bit, tense about it, a little bit, uneasy about this whole thing, right? So Booth and Brennan are going to be talking to the Foster family, and they're going to share the sad news. And Booth is going to try to kind of connect with this young boy's relatives, who might have known something. And they're going to find out about, the whereabouts of this missing boy prior to his death, of this dead boy prior to his death, especially, what he did before. So they're going to learn about some kind of an arcade they went to, and then they're going to discover, something about the mall, right? And they're going to try to find out, to try to piece things together in order to know who could have hurt this young boy. So this is pretty much it for the main plot. So this is going to be a lot of, work, hard work that is going to be done, and it's not going to be easy. And at some point, they're going to suspect that, one of the young boys might hold one of the relatives might hold the key to solving this gruesome murder case. And Brennan is going to kind of, do something that is kind of out of character for her. And she's going to try to get the answers by trying to connect to the victim to connect with the victim, to try and connect with, one of the relatives of the victim who could hold the key to solving this mystery, for lack of better terms. So this is pretty much it for the main plot, and we're gonna learn a little bit. Yes, so this is the main plot about in a nutshell. I apologize if it's a little bit, kind of all over the place. I'm trying my level best to make these reviews as well as I can, and I'm thinking that I'm not doing too bad myself. If I do so, say so myself. So apologize for that, but I'm pretty grateful to God for the ability to speak like this in a concise way, concise manner, without making too many, mistakes and blunders. But anyhow, so let's move on let's talk a little bit more about this episode, about what it is about. So, as I said to you, I told you about the main plot, but in this episode, we're going to learn a little bit more about the characters, especially Brennan and her past. And there's something about the foster care family that is a big theme in this episode. let you find out for yourselves what it is and how it kind of affects Brennan, in this particular case. So I let you find out for yourselves. Not only that, but at the beginning of the episode, Brennan is kind of having this kind of, sorry, I gotta stop saying kind of. She's holding a a conference or something like this for her book. And, as you know, she's a very well known anthropologist. And her and Dr. Goodman are kind of, there in order to, I think there are a lot of students, grad students, if I'm not mistaken, and they get to ask questions. And at some point, Booth is going to, out of nowhere, ask a question about, they're all kind of asking questions about her book. And then in this episode, we're going to learn, that we're going to get to see, what kind of car Brennan drives. And it's a pretty nice car, but something pretty nasty happens near the end of the episode. I'll let you find out for yourself, something about Booth. But her car, the way she parks it, it's kind of, there's a thing about that. Also in this episode, what's her name again? Angela is thinking about maybe quitting her job after it gets to be a little bit too much for her to handle. So there's something about this as well. And last but not least, yes, the team is going to be summoned to some kind of a banquet, which they have to attend. But Jack Hodgins does not want to attend because there's something about, him as a character. A big thing is kind of given away about his character, about, something personal, which I don't want to say. I don't want to mention because I wouldn't want to spoil too much or anything, but I'll let you find out for yourselves. But it was pretty funny, in my opinion. So, yeah, this episode was pretty good. So let's move on to the actors before wrapping this up. So we have the main ones: Emily Deschanel, David Boreanaz, Michael Conlon, Eric Milligan, T.J. Thine, Jonathan Adams. Then we have Paul Butcher, who plays Sean Cook, who's the one of the young boys, right? If I'm not mistaken, is the very one you see on your right here, the blonde kid. We have Evan Ellingson, who plays David Cook, another one of the brothers, as you probably have guessed by their names. Then we have Natasha Roy, who plays Margaret Sanders, who is the mother, if I'm not mistaken, the foster mother. But please don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. Then we have Michelle Ann Johnson, who plays Sarah Johnston, who is one of the a juvenile prosecutor, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have Paul Perduzzi, who plays Captain Kyle Henning. I'm not entirely sure where again, but I apologize for that, where I've seen him. He looks very familiar. Then we have Kathleen M. Darcy, who plays Ellie Nelson. John Sanchez, who plays Child Advocate. Maximilian Roach, who plays Skylar Nelson. Kirsten Severson plays lab worker. Tiffany O'Hara plays student number 1. Ryan Churchill, student number 2 at that press conference I was telling you about. Not press conference, just I think it's some kind of a seminar, if I'm not mistaken, rather than a conference. But please forgive me if I'm making a mistake. Patty Begley plays lab staffer. And they're uncredited, Patty Begley, that is. But yeah, really good episode. My favorite actors are definitely Paul Butcher, Evan Ellingson, and Natasha Roy, as well as Michelle Ann Johnson. Those are my favorite actors and actresses of this episode. But yeah, really enjoyed it. And there's some kind of humor too thrown here and there, especially given the gruesome nature of the case. It's kind of pleasant to have some light-hearted comic relief here and there, especially at some point where the child advocate is not really saying much, and Brennan is like, what's the point of having a child advocate if he does not, he doesn't speak or something like that. But you really enjoyed this episode, and it's a really tragic thing. It's a really, sad thing that happens, and I like how this episode kind of draws, has this foster family, kind of foster care theme. I kind of like that. So yeah, really good episode, really sad, and but kind of funny too at the same time, with the humor thrown here and there. And in the final twist, Brennan is about to get ready, and she looks really dashing. She looks beautiful, and Booth comments on that. And I thought that was a pretty good way to end the episode. So, nevertheless, really good episode. So, if I were to rate this episode on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd definitely give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed this episode. A Boy in a Bush. Really good and really sad at the same time. And really, it's kind of a tearjerker at that as well. 8.5 out of 10 from me. What about you, folks? What did you think about A Boy in a Bush? Did you like it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next review. In the meantime, folks, stay safe. Goodbye. Take care. This is the World of TV Shows signing off.